All right, everybody. Special guest with me today, Mr. Billy Saunders with Caliber Home Loans. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Brian. I appreciate you having me on, man. I know you've got a great following, and you always have great guests that are always informative. So it's a real honor to be here with you.
Thank you, man. So, one of the things that I was actually called Billy the other day, one of the things I was thinking about, and people don't know this, is that not all mortgage companies and lenders are created equal, right? So I have this lady who has a unique situation, and she makes a lot of money, but doesn't show all the money that she makes. And she needs a special thing called a bank statement loan.
Yeah.
And she had been dealing with this company and whatever. And then, like, I was thinking, she says, like, I have a problem. And I was like, man, I remembered Billy has this bank statement loan. And I was like, that's an incredible product that literally she could go to 100 mortgage companies and get turned down, and you guys can do this. And it just proves that, people think, well, like, I have my lender, I have my, people love to go to their, like, credit union. Like, I think you get the better deal at the credit union. I'm not, like, poo-pooing anybody, but I'm just saying, first of all, you don't necessarily get the best deal, but they also, not every lender offers every kind of loan program, right?
True. That's absolutely correct. And
Yeah.
we've got a vast array of loan programs and products that are in our portfolio. And one of the reasons we're able to offer some of these programs and products is because we are a servicing company. So, and that's a huge, really a huge thing to kind of point out when you're thinking about, who to align yourself with as far as a mortgage company. We service all of our loans with the exception of our down payment assistance programs, grant products, and things like that. And that,
Yeah.
and what that means, though, from a real estate agent perspective, also from a home buyer perspective, is, by being the servicing company, we don't have to package our loans and sell them on the secondary market, and we don't have to open ourselves up to the scrutiny of investors who are purchasing our loans.
Right.
And probably 90% of the mortgage companies out there, at least the ones that I'm familiar with in our community, they do that. So having the ability to service the loans means that we can have a greater, variety and array of products that we can offer, such as this bank statement loan that you're referencing.
Yeah. So, like, I don't necessarily suggest, calling 3 and 4 lenders and making applications with all of them, having your credit pulled 4 times, and, kind of just going through the whole process 4 times just because you think it's a good idea. But I do think it's worth, like, exploring what other things are available. Because, I mean, literally, if you go into, like, and again, I'm not, just not to pick on anybody, if you go into a Bank of America, I don't know that they offer all the loan programs. Like, some places don't offer USDA no down payment loans. And I think that because credit unions are some special category, they're not even allowed to offer the down payment and closing cost Maryland mortgage program. So I guess my point just is that people just assume, oh, you work at mortgage company does loans, all loans are the same. It's really not true. It's just not. And the other piece of advice that I give people is that, again, not to poo-poo anybody, but when you want to deal with a mortgage, you want to deal with a company that only does mortgages, and not that you can't get a loan at Bank of America, but that person at Bank of America, first of all, is going to take your loan, stick it in the machine, and send it off to, like, Indiana, where it's going to be taken, processed. And then that lady's going to swivel her chair around and open up a checking account. And you have some issues and you need some questions answered. And then they get off at 4:30. Like, Billy, you can call Billy at 9:00 at night, and he's literally just only does loans 24 hours a day. You can't open a checking account at Caliber Home Loans, right?
That's correct. It's funny you say that. I reference that frequently when I'm, talking to a consumer, and maybe, especially in the military community, they're so sold on certain banks.
USAA, right?
I didn't say it, you said it, but yeah, they're sold. Yeah. Look, they spend a ton of money on advertising. They got Rob Gronkowski.
They make you think that they are in the military. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They're like the 5th branch of the military or something.
But their marketing is so strong and they're so good at it that they really have convinced a lot of people that that's the way to go. But the reality is they're great at managing your homeowner's insurance. They're great at managing your checking and savings account, but they're not always great. Same with credit unions. They're not always great at doing mortgages. And you touched on something that is hugely important, especially as a local real estate agent. you want to make sure that you've got some levels of accountability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah. So like something starts to go wrong, and you can't. So the last time I did this was dealing with this person of this Texas thing, and come to find out, this guy I've been yelling at the whole time is like a sales rep. He's not even a licensed loan officer. Like his job is just to be the person on the phone, like the receptionist type of. I don't know what you would call it. I don't, because I've never dealt with this before,
an account
but
rep.
yeah. And so you can't even like pick up the phone and talk to, like, I'll give you one example with one of these credit unions that rhymes with AV Federal, right? Like, so you are trying to make an offer on a house and you want to get the payment and you want a lender letter. They have to submit the whole thing to get a lender letter, even if it's lower than the one you already have. Like you can't just get one. Like, hey, Billy, no, we're going to go in off for 450 now. Give me one for 450. Like you just send one over. They're approved for 500. Get one. These guys, it's just a whole different ballgame. But I don't want to harp on these guys all day. I just wanted to make the point that not all lenders are the same. You know, it's a good idea to, find out if there are any special ways that somebody could get down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, or even people that think they can't get a mortgage. Because this lady, if she had gone into any mortgage company, she would have got denied. And you guys have the special loan program. So I think it's good to know that there are other ways that you can, what do we call it? Like skin the cat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got a solution, for a lot of different, challenges that many home buyers are faced with. And, they will all work out, and not every deal is a doable deal. You still have to qualify on certain levels, but we do have a distinct advantage by being a servicing company that we can do some things that other mortgages companies can't.
All right, man. So what is your like gut feeling for 2023? What do you think? Like if
when I think about this year, I've spent a lot of time thinking about, housing predictions, what the market's going to look like in the coming year, this year. I think it's going to be a good year. I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be a great year. I think, quarter one, we're going to start off in a little bit of a slump. It's kind of the backside of of what kind of started in Q3 of 2022. We saw interest rates kind of rise dramatically, very quickly. And I think the market, the average consumer is just having to take a little bit of time to adjust to the reality of buying a house in a 6.5% interest rate market. I mean, it really is what it is.
Yep.
So
that does take time. So you're dealing with people that like started at 4.5 and then they were dragging their feet into 6.5. Then they're like, oh, this is ridiculous. And then you have somebody who started like in November and they were like 7.25. Now they're 6.5. They're getting a deal.
Yeah. And I think it's going to take those same buyers a little bit of time, maybe into the spring of this year before they kind of go, all right, cool. You know what? I'm good with this. I see the value in home ownership. I don't want to pay somebody else's mortgage. And I'm convinced that, even if I buy a house that maybe it depreciates 3% in value in the first 2 years, which we think it might, I'm not buying it to make money on it today. I'm buying it because A, I need a place to live. And then B, I see the long-term plan of equity, right? We're not at the bottom of the market, and I think what we're seeing right now.
So you're saying that you think prices are going to go down?
I think values are going to go down. I don't think prices are going to go down. I think they're going to.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah. You think what we've seen in the last, year and a half, we saw mortgage, values on properties go up, 17 to 19%. I mean, it's kind of unheard of. And a lot of that had to do with, basic supply and demand principles,
That's why I'm going to actually disagree to the sense that I think prices have actually come down already.
I agree.
I'm not sure that these dire predictions of 5 and 10% housing correction in prices is, and I'll also say this, even if it does happen nationally, I don't think it's going to happen in the Washington, D.C. area.
100% correct, Brian.
Yeah. And the reason why is because they're just what you said, supply and demand, but we didn't see a huge spike. We didn't see prices go up, as high as they did in like parts of Florida and Texas and Vegas. And they did go up, obviously. And I think that they could stagnate some and whatnot. But your point about the supply and demand thing, there's not been an influx of new houses. You and I were just talking about some townhouses that you're helping people buy, and they're having a hard time. You said they're pausing it or something like that. Like builders are not flinging houses on the market to make up the supply and demand. Therefore, there's a limited amount of houses. You know, the DC area is old, right? So we're not just plowing fields of trees and making new neighborhoods. There's not a lot of places left to build houses, so we're kind of have to like deal with what we have. And the federal government continues to spend money on itself. People are moving here to work, and I think house prices actually might flatten or even go up this year. Yeah. I don't know, but I feel like that I've seen it. I just had 3 offers on the house, sold over the appraisal, and the amount of like showings on my listings has been spiking. It seems like the demand is still strong.
It really is. And I think part of the reason demand is there's a lot of, there's a huge pent up demand by, 30 to 35-year-olds. They want to become homeowners. I read somewhere recently that right now it's the most on record since the baby boomer generation,
Yeah. You want to know why?
Yeah. Why?
So, well, there's a lot of reasons why, but like, I'll just give you one. So if you Google the first time people bought a house by like decade, like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, now we're 2020, it's steadily been progressing forward. Some people argue that the student loan situation, there's sort of like this idea of like people not owning things was kind of popular when like video games, people stopped buying them, they rent them, like everything's rented now. Right. There was even people trying to rent cars, zip cars for a while. Like you don't have to own a car, you just rent one, you just pay a fee and all this. And, renting seemed like it was okay for everybody. It didn't seem like you had to own a home. Like people that are younger don't want their parents inherited like china and furniture and just heirlooms. Like people don't necessarily have the same attachment to physical things. But I also think it's something to do with like the maturity level and the student loan debt situation. But people get married later, people have children later, and people buy a home later. It's just cultural. Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And then because house prices haven't been expensive relatively, because interest rates have been so low, it sort of created a manufactured like inexpensive to buy a house. I saw a lady buy a $400,000 house for $2,000 a month when things were good. Like FHA just put like $10,000 down. It was more than that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I got you. So, and I'll tell you, it's funny you're mentioning that, like the fact that I think the average home buyer, the age of the average home buyer is growing yearly. I mean, we're seeing,
You mean first-time home buyer or just overall?
First-time home buyers. First-time home buyers.
Then that's now for the first time the biggest segment of the market again. Like it went away, now it's back. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about, what we're projecting for the housing market in the next year, I think that's going to be, when you look at the overall landscape of who's going to be buying houses, I mean, that's a big part of it. Yeah. First-time home buyers are going to become more normal than ever, right? Yeah. I think you're going to see some investors, but I think the move-up buyer pool is going to shrink incredibly, and it's going to shrink, and it makes sense because they're all locked in at a 2.5% to 3.5% interest rate. So why would you move, right?
Yeah, I talked to a lady for 30 minutes yesterday. She wants a bigger house with more land, but not by a lot. Like she wants one more bedroom and she wants a little more room between her and her neighbors. And I'm like, so what's up with your interest rate? And you got one of them threes. Right. Like, yeah, 3.25. I'm like, I don't see this happening for you. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd love to sell your house and help you buy one, but I need you to have a heart to heart with yourself. You're going from 3.5 to 6.25, whatever. Like you are going to feel that unless there is something significant that's changing. Maybe you do an addition, maybe you go on vacation, maybe you buy a Airbnb or something. I just don't see you going through this because the difference in the payment, even if she kept the same price, she sells a house at 5 and buys one at 5. The payment is a lot different between 3.5 and 6.5. It would be, I guess, the equivalent of about 30% different, right, which would be like $1,500 a month, give or take. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's 15, 16, 17 grand a year. In 10 years, that's almost $200,000.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Now, the only thing that move up buyer may have that they could use to, fight that higher interest rate of 6.25, 6.5 is if they have enough equity in their house that they can, kind of
plop it down on the new one.
Yeah, buying down that, but also buying down the interest rate. I mean, people forget that about the ability to pay points to buy down the rate, and there's a greater value in that than we've seen in a long time in my industry.
And so let me ask you just real quick. So let's say I buy down my rate and then rates drop super far. Is there any way to recoup any of that?
No, not really. Which is
If you do the 2-1 buy down, you can, but that's kind of silly in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. 2-1 buy downs. That was a great solution to a problem that we really were faced with last year that kind of became the expense of it wasn't worth it. You look at everything from a cost effectiveness position and the cost of a 2-1 buy down, whether the buyer was paying for it, the seller was paying for it, or was a combination of both. We were seeing like on a $400,000 loan, a 2-1 buy down could cost a consumer up to $8,000 at out-of-pocket expenses, increasing their closing cost significantly. And it just the value wasn't there, considering every mortgage industry expert and every economist is really projecting that the rates are going to go down in the next year.
Well, I think that was the one time where the 2-1 buy down does make sense, though, right? Because isn't it essentially you're just putting the money in like an account and you're just doling it out over 2 years. And if you did refinance in 12 months, anything left in that account does apply forward.
It goes to a principal curtailment. You're not going to be able to get the money.
It doesn't come back in cash. You can't buy a TV with it.
Exactly right. But it's still, you're not losing it in that sense.
Yeah, that doesn't help a lot. People think that putting 10 grand or 20 grand down a house is going to lower their payment a lot. And it's like, yeah, it's $100 a month.
Yeah. $10,000 is a $50 a month.
Exactly.
Check your receipts because the math don't math when you're thinking about it from that perspective.
Right.
So,
all right, man. So what about, I don't know, the other one people kind of ask about is interest rates. Like everybody has, I've seen as high as 10%. And then I think now we're talking Q3, we're going to see them dip again. What do you think?
The reality is nobody has a magic 8-ball. Nobody has any way to predict or project what the market is going to do. So we really just have to kind of look at history as an example, and right now, the one thing that I can say is, the inflation growth rate is falling, right? Regardless of what the Fed believes or doesn't believe. We know why rates drop.
Except for eggs.
That's
for some reason.
Yeah. Next week it'll be shampoo or soap. We don't, who knows?
Yeah.
So not, but it'll be something weird. We know that.
So inflation's going down.
Inflation's coming down.
Except eggs.
Yeah, except for eggs. And if you look at the last 10 months, we saw rates increase at levels that were record-breaking increases in our industry, and
100%.
This is all while we were coming out of the pandemic. And the pandemic is the reason why the rates dropped, right? So that was our market correction. Then you throw in rising inflation rates going up to 7-8%. And that was, another reason for the spike in the rates. Now, what we're seeing again is inflation starting to cool, and the big discussion in the financial markets is a recession, right? And if you look at the Federal Reserve's playbook, we know that the way that they
lower rates during a recession.
Yeah, they fight inflation by raising rates, and then they go, straight from the playbook. They're going to fight recession by reducing the rates. And I think that by the time we get to, like, say, end of Q1, beginning of Q2 of this year, we'll see rates somewhere around 5.5. Every expert that I follow and trust, I think they're predicting by the end of Q4 we could see rates in the high 4s and low 5s.
Well, if that happens, I would go back to my prediction that house prices will actually continue to stay flat and or rise.
Right.
Because it's just a simple supply and demand thing. People need houses, then there's not enough of them. Like the thing is, population actually goes up as well. Yeah. Like you need to build more houses because of population growth, but also there's certain parts of the country that have a higher demand than others. In Washington, D.C. area, because of the way the politics are these days, the federal government is getting a free pass to spend as much money as they want, and they're hiring and they're growing, and they need not only the workers, but then the people that support them, and then the people that provide services to the people that do the jobs and support them, which is what we do.
Right.
So I feel like that they're not building. Like if you go through all of Southern Maryland, how many new construction signs do you see in Southern Maryland for single family homes?
It's shrinking.
Man. I think that there's zero in Calvert County outside of Oakland Hall. And I think Richmond bought like the last couple lots that Kane had up there in Chesapeake Beach, and they may or may not even have them. We're talking like 10 or whatever. I'm not talking 100. Oakland Hall is almost done. That's the only neighborhood that I know of that's like a real neighborhood. And then you go to St. Mary's County. Stanley Martin is basically done with the single families as far as I can tell. And then you had what's it called? I think Mark was doing, then they sold out to it might have been Richmond or one of those guys, and they have a couple going up. But we're talking like one neighborhood. It's what's it called?
Rest.
And then
Parks Rest.
yeah, exactly. I got a lady was looking over there. So the thing is, like, then you go to St. Mary, you go to Charles, you got like White Plains is blowing up. They're blowing up White Plains, and they have plans for like a 3,000. I don't know if they've curtailed it, but at one point they were gonna basically buy the school, put in 3,000 houses. It was going to be huge, and that's the only place they're growing. But then you go to like PG County, and you don't see a lot going on there. Anne Arundel County, quite a bit, depending on where you're at. But it's like there's not a lot of new construction going up. Like 20 years ago in the 90s, there was neighborhoods everywhere, just everywhere. Like it seems like Southern Maryland doubled in size in the 90s. And because every house you look at is built between 1991 and 2014. It's like that's when all the houses were built. But now I just don't see it. So I don't think that's going to resolve itself.
Well, part of the explosion in building that we saw in the 90s and early 2000s is kind of what led to the housing bubble that we had. That was a big part of it. You know, they were springing up more houses than there was demand for them, right? So that was part of it. Now, the other thing to touch on, you know, just locally looking at Southern Maryland as a whole, you know, looking at the county, you talked about like there's not much building going on in Calvert. There's still some stuff going on in St. Mary's, but there's a lot going on in Charles. You got to really kind of equate that to local county government as well. And what are their plans and anticipation and expectations?
That's 100% what that's from.
For growth. I mean, we see that all the time. I mean, I am fortunate enough to be a preferred lender for a lot of the bigger builders here in Southern Maryland. Yeah. And I know, you know, Clark's Rest, you know, they're still doing building back there. I mean, you know, my builder's got a handful of, not a handful, a dozen or more spec homes available, and they just broke ground on another, you know, 10 lots. Charles County, you look at Agricopia community. I mean, there's some delays right now in the land development side of it, but man, they're getting ready to, you know, blow up over there in that White Plains, La Plata, Charles County areas. I've even heard some rumors that there's a huge condo complex going up in one of those neighborhoods. So that'll be interesting as well to see, you know, 120 units maybe become available in the next 2 years.
I mean, I think that's the future of housing, to be honest with you. If it was up to me, I would live in a condo that had a laundry service where you put your laundry in like in a box and you put it in a hole, and then like it comes back 3 days later folded. And then you have one for your food. You stick the dirty plates and the thing, you stick it in the hole, and then you get like an app, you order your food, and you just pay like an extra $2,000 a month. You know what I'm saying?
We're going to go on Shark Tank with this, man.
Bro, that's my idea, man, because you got to also look at it like your time is your money. So if you make, let's just say you make $50 an hour, does it make sense for you to do your laundry when you could be maybe doing something to make money or spend time with your family? Maybe that's a job you could pay somebody $8 an hour to do. And now you can skip that and dishes. And then when you have a condo, you have no grass, no roof to replace, no septic to worry about, no landscaping, no spending Saturday, mulching, all that's gone.
You know, I'll tell you, it's funny you say that. Like, you know, I had an old lawnmower, big riding lawn tractor for years, and I used to drive that thing around my house, you know, 2 or 3 hours a week, you know, and I finally realized, man, this is not the best use of my 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. The best thing that ever happened was when that lawn tractor broke down, and I had an estimate to come out and fix it, and the guy said, you may as well just buy a new one. And I said, or I may as well just hire somebody to do this for me.
Yeah, well, you know who's good at that? And this is what goes back to our first conversation. The millennials, like they know better than to spend all day on a lawnmower, because they look at everything from like how do you get the most juice out of the squeeze? Like, so that's kind of where I learned a lot of this thinking of, is like evaluate your life by how much time you're spending on things and whether or not it's a good use of your time.
Yeah.
And exactly to that point, like my father's generation and like people a little older than me, they would never think about not cutting your grass. It's almost like a rite of passage. You get a nice riding lawnmower and you cut your own grass, you stripe it, make it look good. Like you're the man, takes care of your house. And now I'm like, if I could pay somebody else to do it, God, I hope we can afford it. You know what I mean? That's all I want to do is not cut my grass.
Well, I can tell you my lawn has never looked better.
Exactly.
Doing it myself, because I would lower the blade to as low as it would go, and then it would
so you don't have to
like
cut as much and burn it all up and everything, man. Yeah.
Now I've got a nice plush green lawn, and I just get to. I always feel guilty though. I feel terrible when I come home and the guy's there doing it, and I have
in
to.
pants.
I don't want to make eye contact with him because I feel like he thinks I'm lazy. I don't,
Yeah.
What's wrong with
And he's
this
wearing
guy?
long sleeves and pants and like in a hat and everything. And you're just like, man, I'm blessed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I'm looking out my window, it's raining right now. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I got an inside job. Well, I know one of the other things you want to talk about was some marketing that you're doing and some of the things that kind of separates you as a lender, kind of what it is that you're sort of known for and what you get into.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like I learned a long time ago that you can be the smartest loan officer on the planet, but unless you're good at marketing, you're really going to struggle. And and I think real estate agents are the same way. I said anybody in our industry or any entrepreneur for that matter, you've got to be really good at marketing, and you've got to make sure that you're visible in your community. And my mentor, my coach, he used to always say to me, you've got to. If you want to be successful, you've got to go out there, shake hands, kiss babies, and run for mayor of real estate town. And there's never been a truer statement. It took me about 10 years to figure that out. But, I invest heavily back into my business, just monetarily from doing advertising, billboards, I do all that stuff, the social media. I do the grocery cart advertising, which you never know what your actual return is. But the reality,
you're on my card down here at Weiss and Lusby.
Yeah, I think I don't know exactly how many carts I'm on, but it's quite a few throughout Southern Maryland. And I love getting text messages from friends and family and associates that text me and say, "Look who I'm shopping with today," and I think that's funny. So I get a kick out of that.
Yeah, it was from my wife was. My wife was looking at it, and right next to your advertisement is something, and it has a bunch of pills on the front, and it says something like, opiate overdoses or something. I was like, Valerie's like, that's not a good look for Billy right there. Well, they never told him his face is going right next to some opiate overdose.
I didn't know that, but I got nervous when you started talking about that, because I thought when you said pills, I thought it was going to be like a Viagra advertisement.
No. Luckily, it's just opiate overdoses. That's just, it's even better, I guess.
That's good stuff.
I'll have to
take a look at that to see. But it's funny, like when marketing and generating referrals and trying to grow your business, it's you have to bring value. And one of the ways I do that is I teach a lot of classes. In particular, a lot of brand new real estate agents have flooded the market in the last couple of years, and they're not really sure where to go and how to develop their personal brand. And personal branding and branding yourself as a business and making sure that you're reaching and being influential in your community and touching people that could be prospective clients is a big part of it. And this past year, I was really fortunate to have been invited by the Maryland Association of Realtors to attend the Ocean City MAR conference, the state MAR conference, and present that class. And I had over 100 real estate agents sign up and attend that class. And that was a real proud moment for me. I got a little stage fright. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I felt like I did a great job. I got a little bit of a round of applause and had a few people lined up that wanted to talk to me afterwards. So obviously I did something right. And I'm looking forward to, more opportunities like that in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I was blessed enough that my wife was a Facebook queen, that they call her, and guru.
Local celebrity, man.
Yeah, so she was really, and everybody watches Valerie and they think, oh, she's just like some little like beacon of light, and she just flutters all around and people just want to love her. And that is true, but I will tell you that there is a significant level of intelligence behind the way that she goes about saying things, doing things, posting things. Yeah. And there's a concentrated, deliberate effort in order to try to, make the message the way that it would be attractive. I'm just trying to be polite about saying it. Like, she's trying to get business a lot of times by saying things in the way that she does it. And obviously it's been effective. Our whole business has been built on Facebook, just personal pages, just my page and her page, and people kind of knowing us. And I'll say more than that, you had talked about being the mayor of your town and kissing babies. Like Valerie also knows a lot of people, and I know a lot of people, and kind of just like we do get out some, but even during COVID, like the only opportunity we had was online. And that's where I kind of specialize. I mean, we're doing this right now, hundreds of people probably watch this, and we're sitting here having a conversation. You're in Prince Frederick and I'm in Lusby, or you're in Dunkirk and I'm in Lusby. So yeah, I mean, I think that people are very overwhelmed by the dauntingness of, like, you have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and then and the other thing is, everybody that you talk to has a financial interest in your advice. So it's like, oh, well, if you do YouTube and then buy my course. It's like, well, if you do Facebook, buy my course. So what do you tell new realtors if somebody called you and said, hey, I want to get my business off the ground? What's your like little blueprint?
You have to be so visible that people can't help but see you.
It's funny you say that, because when Valerie started on Facebook, a lot of people gave her negative feedback. Like, all you do is post, and it's like, all you want to do is be a realtor. It's like, yes, thank you for noticing. And I'll tell you this, there was a lot of negative feedback in the very beginning. It was like the haters all spoke up and then they left. But now that they're gone, you don't want to ever hear it. But in the beginning, there was a lot of pushback. And I think people are intimidated about the idea of coming on too strong, feeling like it's just too much about one thing and not another. And I will say there is a balance. You have to be careful about how you do it. But I would say err on the side of what you said, being out there more than less, right? Like, how would you describe it?
I 100% agree with you. You do have to find a balance, and you don't want to just make everything look like you're advertising your services. People want to relate to you as a human being. They want to know that you've got a family. They want to know that you're dealing with struggles. I mean, to a degree. I mean, you don't want to put all your personal business out there, but we are, at the end of the day, we are humans, and we have to be relatable to other people just like us. So
what if you're not a friendly person, and you're not like a super relatable person, and that you're not the kind of person that people are interested in what you did last weekend for fun? What do you do then?
It's somebody for everybody, man. So
there's somebody for me, Billy.
Right there, exactly. There's somebody for everybody. So just be yourself. I mean, just share your life experiences, share your business experiences. Celebrate your accolades, and share that information as well. I think the biggest thing that I think people struggle with on social media when it comes to us as real estate professionals is they misinterpret our celebrations for other people as bragging on ourselves.
Well, it depends on how you do it. Okay. So it's one thing to say, I got this award and I was better than the 1,000 other realtors that were in the same category as me, and I got top 2%, versus saying, I really appreciate all those out there who trusted me enough and put their, let me sell their house or help them buy a house. And then because of your trust in me, I was awarded, top 2%. And I just want to thank all of you who have trusted me. Like, right. You see that?
But you have to be genuine about it, of course.
I mean, what if I'm genuinely bragging because I'm better than the other 1,000 agents? I mean, that's how I would want to do it, right? Like, I'm better than them because I try harder, because I invested in myself and I learned how to do it better. Like, what's wrong with saying that?
Yeah. And I always say, my personal belief on that is, I always kind of think about it from this perspective. Recognition's not the goal, but it certainly is appreciated, right? It feels good to be recognized for your efforts and your success. So there's no shame in saying that. And you know what? The reality is, people want to do business with successful people.
That's true.
And there's a reason why you're successful. And they know that if other people are experiencing the service and the value of the service that you're providing, they want to get a taste of that as well.
I remember when I started, I bought this car off another realtor. It was an Audi A8. It's a $100,000 car. And I paid a small fraction of it, but I'm driving this car. I liked it. It was a V8. It's a luxury car. It's cool. Broke down. Just had to get rid of it. But I pulled up at this house. Matter of fact, it was a deal you and I were working on together. Remember that guy? And he was so mad at me that I had this car. He was like, yeah, and you're sitting here driving around this car. And he was like bitter about it. And I had never thought about it. And then I had like a complex about my car for a while. I was like, man, I don't want to be driving these cars and people think I'm just some big show off. Then I thought to myself, all right, well, let me think about this for a second. Like, that's on the buy side. On the listing side, do you want your listing agent to pull up in a Corolla, or do you want them to pull up in a Benz? Like, I want my listing agent to be a baller who's making a lot of money because he sells a lot of houses. Like, I was looking at this guy the other day. It worked for one of the biggest real estate team around, big show off thing, and listed 9 houses, sold 1. And it was like, what the heck is going on? And then I just took a listing last night where the lady's just like, she's like, I'm just getting out of the business. I can't afford it. I was like, well, you know why? Because she only sold 1 house. She probably made like $7,000 last year. She can't even afford to renew her fees. And I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just making the point. Like, you do want to have somebody who's making a lot of money as your lender. You want a successful person to help you out. And you got to kind of like deal with that in your head as a lender or a realtor, especially. Like, do you want to come across as being pretentious? You got to be careful with that, right?
Listen, I'm not embarrassed by my W-2. I earn every dollar I make. But you're right. You do have to be careful about your, the
way you come across.
Yeah, the way you come across. And, but at the end of the day, you're right when you say that people want to do business with successful people, because there's 3 words that apply there: proven track record, right?
Yeah.
And proven track record means that, hey, look, I have success in my job. People know me, they like me, they trust me. They'll hand over their most expensive.
What kind of car do you drive, Bill? If you don't
I have
a
2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
It's a nice car.
It's all right. It's nice.
That's a nice car. A Grand Cherokee's a nice. It was a Cherokee. The Grand Cherokee's a nice car. That's a nice vehicle.
I enjoy my car. I'm not driving a Land Rover. Trust me. I looked at them and I thought, man, wouldn't that be nice to be?
You got to fix the air shocks.
Yeah, tooling around in that beautiful Land Rover. It's a status thing, but for me, I just wanted something to get me from A to Z.
Okay.
When I was younger, cars were a big deal to me.
Yeah, they're still a big deal to me. So.
Well,
and that's the thing. Like, not everybody's into everything. I kind of like cars, so it's whatever. You know.
Well,
what I mean?
Here's the other part of that. I'll tell you. When I was a kid growing up, my father was a general manager of about every car dealership in Southern Maryland. I felt like he spent some time there. So as a 16-year-old kid, when I first got my license, I had the ability to go up to the dealership where my dad worked and take the keys off the rack and just basically drive whatever car I wanted off the lot every weekend.
So what kind of car like, if you could drive any car and not feel pretentious, then what would you drive?
Oh my gosh, probably like a BMW like 6 Series coupe. I like those.
The 2-door coupes?
Yeah. I like the 4-door as well, the BMW or a CLS, Mercedes. I like those. Those are nice. But again, I just, for me, it's the thrill's gone. I burned that out when I was a teenager, man.
Really? Like, you don't enjoy driving a nice car? Doesn't do anything for you?
Don't care.
Really?
Yeah, my car's fine.
I'll be honest with you, man. It's a big deal to me. I like nice cars and I like driving. So in Southern Maryland, not a ton to do. One of my favorite things to do is go past Leonardtown High School and take that back road all the way down to Piney Point and just kind of rip through the back roads, and then go down through towards Budds Creek and kind of drive through St. Mary's County and Charles County. Like, that's what I'd like to do for fun. So it's interesting that you got to drive all these cars. You don't even care what kind of car you have.
No.
I can name 20 cars I'd like to have.
As a 17, 18-year-old kid, I can remember on one Friday night, I'd go up there and get a 280ZX. I'd return it on Monday or Sunday night. On the next Friday night, I'd go up there and pick up a used Corvette off the lot, take that out.
That's the car I would have, but I'm going to wrap it on a tree. But a Z06, the new Z06, if you've studied it at all, is a pretty legit car, man.
It looks like a Ferrari, man. They really have stepped up the engineering on that for sure.
All right, so getting back to this whole real estate agent kind of starting out, getting their business off the ground. You said you want them to be the mayor of their town and that you want them to post and be very, very visible. What's like the 1-2 punch on that?
It's utilizing social media. I think that's a big part.
Which platform do you like?
It's funny you say that. Like, I think as we, get older and we kind of go through our marketing strategies, and I'm going to go way back to to when I first got in the business. The idea of marketing from a loan officer was you took donuts to real estate offices, right?
Yeah, I know.
And you'd walk in with a dozen donuts and there'd be 25 realtors there. And then it seemed like overnight they disappeared. There was nobody ever going into a real estate office, and platforms like yourself with EXP, the more digital platforms have become more prevalent. Yeah. So the days of delivering donuts and pizzas are over. Now it's now you got 50-year-old guys like me sitting around spending 4 hours trying to figure out how to do a 30-second TikTok, right? You have to change.
You're not 50, Billy.
I'm 53.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm 53 years old.
Dude, you're the youngest 53-year-old I've ever seen in my life. Oh, my gosh. I
appreciate you saying that. I'm 50. I was born in the 60s.
I thought you were like 48 calling yourself 50. Now people are like, oh, I'm 50. Like, nah, that's crazy, man. I lost my whole train of thought right there.
I was born in 1969, my friend.
Holy crap, dude. I'm sorry, man. What were you saying?
I'm just saying, like I said, you have to adapt to the changes in your environment. You have to.
So I'm sorry, I missed that. What platform then? What you were saying?
I'm doing TikToks now. I never thought, but I can remember 15 years ago when text messages became popular.
Tell me it works, man. Tell me it works.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
let me ask you this: like
an experiment.
I'm gonna ask these questions gently. Are we doing any dancing?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are we doing any pointing at the words?
No.
All right, I'll forgive you then. So I didn't know what you meant when you said that. If we're like get the mortgages and we're doing the thing, like my daughter watches TikTok all day, and I want to take the phone and smash her face in with it when I like just the volume of it, like everything coming out of TikTok makes me want to just smash it. So you're saying, so let me ask you this then. Who's watching your TikTok? Do you think local realtors are watching your TikTok? Do adults watch your TikTok?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. A lot of real estate agents and realtors are watching the TikToks. Other people are watching them. The great thing about TikTok is you can see who viewed your video.
Like the people, you can see the accounts.
You can see the accounts of who's viewed your video. And I think the last one that I did within the first 24, 48 hours had like 500 views. Now, I don't know if that meant they looked at it for 3 seconds and swiped, or if they looked at it and watched the whole 1-minute video. But, I'm seeing some results. I'm seeing some opportunity. I mean, to me,
well, you know what? You're 50 and you're older than me. So you give me permission to get on TikTok. So I'm going to have to get on TikTok.
Yeah, no shame in it. It's weird, but
there is shame in it, but I'm gonna have to get over it.
There might be over it, right? Yeah, exactly. And the idea, like when you think about that kind of stuff, I've got a book here that says implement now, perfect later.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Well, let me ask you this then. So I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like, and we've known each other, I feel like you've gotten, and you might not be able to draw a line to it, but I would suggest you probably been way more prolific. That's not the right word. Prolific on Facebook than on TikTok. I know you're probably getting a lot of activity on TikTok, but even on Facebook, when you have nobody saying anything to you, and I know this because of my wife, I walk around town and everyone's like, oh, well, did you end up getting it? And I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you? What? They're like, did you end up getting the boat? And I'm like, I did actually. And they're like, and these people know me. I don't know them, and they think I know them, and I feel bad, but it's my wife puts my life on Facebook, right? And then people are following my life, and I appreciate it. I love people and everything. And I feel like that if I'm going to give advice, and this is me personally, I feel like that the generation of people that buy houses for the most part are on Facebook, and the way that the interactions are and the way that the sort of ability to put yourself in a true sense, it's not so much scripted. Like a lot of times you're just kind of living your life. Like I put up on Facebook the other day, I'm at the freaking Japanese steakhouse, and I have to go in like 2 minutes because I have to take my kids somewhere. And I'm at the Japanese steakhouse, and I'm getting to this point where they're going to throw shrimp on everybody, and I'm so irritated because my freaking food is $44. Plus I got the sushi, you know what I'm saying? So I'm probably like a $60 bill sitting there, and this guy's going to throw shrimp at me, and it's so awkward. And I just like, how do I get out of this? You know what I mean? So I put that on Facebook, like, help me get out of this.
No.
And I mean, I couldn't do that though, because I felt like that's going to embarrass him. Like, so I'm thinking this is a grown man who's throwing shrimp in my family to feed his family. I can't bring shame on this man. I can't do it.
Right.
You know, I have to figure out a way to give him his dignity, but keep him from throwing shrimp at me. And I'm coming up with nothing. And then the funny thing is, like Melanie put on there, just say no, thank you. And I was like, duh. I probably should have just said that. But I got all these funny ideas and none of it worked. But anyway, like, I feel like that's real life. I mean, I was really in that situation. I really was hoping somebody gave me a good strategy. Kind of, I was just goofing off too. But in my opinion, still, I think Facebook's king. I'm just going to be honest. My like vote is, if you're going to get your business out there, I think that Facebook is it. And I'll try TikTok. I mean, if that's the new wave.
Well, I think we're marketing to a different clientele, and the clientele, the demographic that we're marketing to, uses different avenues and forms of social media. People in our sphere of influence, people that are our age.
Yeah, you're looking for buyers, I guess, also, and then you're also looking for realtors, probably primarily. I mean, what's your target on TikTok? Realtors or buyers?
It's a combination of both, to be quite honest with you. You know, again, it's about being visible. We talk about that. Be so visible, but that people can't help but see.
But when like what's your videos about? Is it two realtors like, hey, do this marketing, or is it two buyer, hey, this interest rate? Or
it's a little bit of both. So when I'm marketing like some of the products and programs that we're offering, which we're doing some pretty incredible stuff right now here at Caliber Home Loans, and that is more directed towards real estate agents, but also as a secondary overflow, I want to fall into the viewership of a prospective home buyer who may see it also and go, hey, that's pretty cool. I can utilize that. That can help me with my down payment, or that can help me lower my interest rate. So with real estate agents seeing, it's never bad for me, because those are ultimately our referral sources. And that's the community that I rely on heavily, to trust me and know me, trust me, and confidently refer clients to me.
So if someone's sitting across from me, we'll have 2 minutes left. Someone's sitting down with you, Billy, I just got my license. I want to work with probably going to work with some buyers. I want to find some buyers, or I want to get my name out there. Your 1 minute advice.
I'm going to tell them to start off by telling everyone they know that they're doing real estate now.
Okay.
Utilize their target market. Like, when I think about target marketing, for example, I was a youth football coach for, a dozen years down in Southern Maryland, and everybody knew me as Coach Billy. They didn't know me as mortgage lender Billy until I identified that was a market that knew me, liked me, and trusted me, but they just didn't know what I did for a living. They thought I was a youth football coach, right? They thought I coached their kid in soccer and lacrosse and baseball and football. So eventually I started finding a way to advertise to that community to make sure that everyone in that sphere of influence knew that what I was doing. So I think for a brand new real estate agent, that's the first thing that you have to identify.
All right. So you identify your sphere and you start to market to your sphere. I would say that you should get a MailChimp account, which is free, put all the emails in there, and then send out a monthly newsletter. All right. What else? What's your social media game? We got 1 minute.
All right. So they say that in order to be in that circle of referrals, that you have to be able to educate, appreciate, and ask. Okay. So think about that for a minute. Being an educator gives you value to the consumer, to the people that are in your demographic and who you're marketing to. So there's the first part of it. You got to educate them. Then you got to appreciate people. You got to let people know, hey, I appreciate you, whether it's on a personal level, whether it's on a professional level. Like, Brian, I appreciate your having me on here today. That's a great way to do this. And what are we doing? We're educating people. We're telling people a little bit about what the market can, is what we're projecting in the market. But the most important thing is you got to ask. If you don't ask, you'll never receive.
I know, but so like we went past the minute, but I'll give you another 30 seconds.
All right.
What is the game plan for like your social media game? Are you posting on Facebook, TikTok, both, Instagram, YouTube at all, like all the above?
Yeah, there are platforms that allow you to cross everything over.
Yeah, we're doing it right now. We're on two Facebook pages and a YouTube channel.
And for me, one of the things that I really want to implement this year is I feel like a lot of valuable messages is not really hitting my target, which is real estate agents. And I need to find a way to effectively increase my visibility through email that's not coming over as overbearing, coming across as overbearing.
I'll tell you how to do that, bro. You have to write them yourself and add videos into each one of them.
I'm setting up my BombBomb accounts. Too many people are shy about video marketing, and they really need to get over it.
Well, BombBomb's okay, but that's really for a one-on-one. I mean, on a mass marketing, I think that an email once a week that has a video in it, that you write the email, none of this stupid corporate bull crap. You got to write the email yourself, talk about what's going on, what you're seeing, what you're thinking, what you really think, be honest, be vulnerable a little bit, and then put a video in there and send it out to everybody all the time and be consistent. And I think you'll be fine. And that's free, honestly, with MailChimp for up to 2,000 people, but you can get, constant contact or whatever. And I think that's a great thing. And people think email is old. Email is not old. People still open their email. So
yeah. Well, you said it a minute ago. I mean, you got to always be evolving. You've got to be trying new things and crossing into new platforms.
Amen on that. That's probably the best advice right there, is you have to try something. And if it doesn't work, then that's just your first attempt.
Right.
If it doesn't work, and again, that's your second attempt. You got to keep trying until you find something that does work. And I think that, and let's leave on that, Billy, is the person who's evolving and the person who keeps trying and never gives up has the attitude that one way or another, this is going to work and you will figure it out. That's the realtor who will push through, and the lender who will push through.
And you got to get out of your comfort zone. Somebody said to me one time, and I've never forgotten it, your comfort zone is your broke zone.
Amen on that. Your comfort zone is your broke zone, everybody. We had an epic 51-minute broadcast here today. Just caught on a roll and never look back. And I have to take my kids, otherwise we'd probably still be talking. So I appreciate you, Billy, man. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you, Brian. Hey, you're a genuine guy. You and Val, everybody knows you. They love you guys. I mean, you bring tremendous value to the community on a lot of different levels, not just real estate, but even personal and professional. You cross over, and it's been a real honor to be here and be a guest for you.
We'll do it again, man. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Well, thank you guys for watching, and have a great week.
All right, Brian. Take care.